My name is Ruthie Gallardo-Owens. I went to Southeast High School here in Oklahoma City. From there I went to Oklahoma State University and I majored in political science and Spanish while I was there. I went to Oklahoma City University for grad school and received my master's in teaching English to speakers of other languages, and I currently work as a teen pregnancy prevention coordinator for Variety Care. Whenever I was growing up, I didn't have a plan for college. I wasn't necessarily sure of how it worked or anything, but I did have some of my cousins in Mexico. They had all gone to college, so I knew that I had to do something, but I wasn't sure. And then whenever we moved here to Oklahoma City from Mexico, I definitely wasn't sure anymore because my mom didn't really speak English, so she always told me to work hard and echarle ganas and all of that, but I wasn't really able to come up with a plan because she didn't know what to do and I didn't know what to do. So that was hard until I was finally probably a junior or a senior, and all of my friends were talking about, well, we're going to go to the military, or we're just going to work after college, or it was more of a I don't want to go to college for my friends. And that made me think, well, do I want to or do I not? And that's whenever I started thinking about it. Whenever I was in high school, it was left open. The decision of going to college or not going to college was left open to us as a student. Again, if we didn't want to go, if we didn't care to go, then no one was going to force us, no one was going to give us that information. So a way that I overcame that was really just asking for help. I mean, just deciding, once I decided, you know what, I don't want to go into the military because I'm scared, I don't want to leave. I heard that you could get shipped off for, to different towns and things like that. And being just my mom and myself, I didn't want to leave my mom. So I said, you know what, I guess college is the thing to do. I never really considered not doing something after high school, like military or college were my two options. So once I decided that, then it was up to me to really go and figure it out. So that was definitely left to us, as the students, to figure that out. And the ones that didn't have the initiative or didn't take the initiative to go figure it out just didn't, and they stayed behind. The first steps were finding out my ACT score. That was the first step, and finding out that there was no way that I was going to go to college with the ACT score I had. So first I had to find out that I wasn't going to go in order to figure out how to go. So once I figured out my ACT scores were too low, and then I was told by one of my counselors, well, too bad, so sad. Figure out maybe the military, go take the test that they have. Go take that. I was pretty disappointed, but then I was told that I couldn't do something. So I said, okay, well, now I'm going to do it. Now I'm going to show you. So I went ahead and I went to my teachers. I figured out that a GPA meant something. And I was lucky to have a really high GPA in high school, because although my comprehension when it came to taking tests wasn't great, I was a very, very hard worker, and I always stayed back and asked teachers for help and things like that. So my grades were high. So that really helped out. So the first step was finding out that even though my ACTs weren't great, I was still able to go because of my GPA. So once I took that, I was able to go ask for help. What do I need now? How am I going to pay for this? Well, it turns out that I had applied for Oklahoma's Promise 2 years before and qualified, and I had no idea. Somehow it got past me that I applied. So once I knew that, hey, I might be able to pay for this, that was one of her steps. And then I found out, okay, what do I need to do before I applied? And I asked the counselor, and once they were like, okay, well, I guess she's serious. She's going to try to go, even though we already told her she can't. They went ahead and they gave me the FAFSA. They gave me all of the requirements for all the colleges. Again, almost telling me, well, this is why you can't go. Look at their requirements. But then somehow I ended up being able to get in touch with St. Gregory's, and they looked at my journalism background that I had from being in the newspaper and yearbook, and then they looked at my GPA and they said, well, you know what? It's not it's not impossible. So from there, they helped me get the rest of what I needed, all the paperwork, and they sat down with me and my mom, and they helped us through the application process and all of that. So before I decided to get into education, I was a political science major. And the reason why I was a political science major was because I was interested in history. I said, well, maybe I can be a lawyer someday. And at that point, it seemed like all of the pre-law students were in political science. So that's what I had to do. And that's whenever that's why I went into that. And once I came out, I went to work, and I went to work with at a dental clinic here in Oklahoma City. And it was very interesting because I was doing a lot of their translating and things like that. And I started to realize how my community was suffering, how people were treating each other, how people were treating the patients. They just weren't being treated the way I imagined my community being treated, and a lot of that was because they didn't speak English. So I said, well, I can go to law school. I was taking a semester break after undergrad. I said, well, I can go to law school now, in a semester or back in the fall, or I can do something else, because if I become a lawyer, I have to charge people to help them. Now, how can I help my community if they can't afford to pay for my help? So I said, you know what, let me go and teach them how to speak English, because if I can teach my community how to communicate, then they can help themselves. So that was my goal when I went into grad school. I said, well, I'm gonna be able to teach English to those that can't speak it, so that they can eventually have a better future, or in turn just be able to defend themselves in life. Well, when I got out of grad school, I went into education. I went and taught Spanish at a public school. About halfway through the year, my husband and I decided to start a family, and I started seeing how that stress was a little bit hard on me. And I said, well, I don't think I'm going to be able to be the teacher that I want to be if I have to split my time with a family. So that's whenever I had to make a decision to move jobs, because I love teaching and helping my community, but it wasn't in that scenario, in a public school scenario, it wasn't going to be possible to do that. So with that being said, that's whenever I ended up at Variety Care. And Variety Care took every aspect of my experience and my goals and put it all into this perfect job. So I went ahead and I applied, and then it all came together in this position that I have now, where I get to teach, I get to go out to the schools, but I don't have to be there, coach or do anything extra as I had to whenever I was in the school. So it's just a perfect position, and I don't think I could have gotten this position without my education and without all the extra experience I acquired along the way. Currently in my life, I am at the point where I've started a family. I graduated high school, went to college, went to grad school, got married, started my career, and a year ago I had a baby. So I have a 1-year-old son, and that's where we are. My career is doing well, my family's doing well, and I really think I'm at a point where I'm able to step back and see how my education and all the hard work's paid off. And it's really nice, because I hear a lot of people say, well, you'll find out whenever you're 40, 50, you'll step back and see. And it's like, well, I'm not that old, and it's nice to be able to step back and see it now and appreciate that now. What I would say to teens to help them, accomplish their goals or reach their goals is set a goal. Because what I see a lot it's teens not having any goals, teens not caring about the future. And to me, if you don't have a goal, if there's not a map, you're going to wander around aimlessly. A lot of times, they might not reach the goal that they set, but they're going to reach a goal. They're going to figure it out along the way. But when there's no goal, there's no aspirations, there's nothing. So biggest advice is set some goals. Now, you may go way past them, you may not reach them, but you're going to get somewhere near them, and that's a big deal, rather than just not knowing and not ever doing anything.